with us today are two friends of ours. We actually go to the same church.
Yes.
And I got the privilege of hearing about your story a couple of years ago, actually. And at that point, you guys were living in the UAE.
Yes.
Looking for someone who could help you navigate the adoption process. And somehow you found Rohe Foundation.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad, we got to know each other and we got to see your journey actually from start to finish. Because they're sitting here today as missionaries under Every Nation Ministries, and they're actually celebrating over a year of
Yes.
to your son Toviel, and we invited them to share a little bit about their adoption journey. And I wanted to hear specifically about your adoption journey, because I think what was so unique about it was that you did a domestic adoption, meaning adopted as Filipinos in the Philippines. But at the time that you started the process, you were actually living abroad. You were OFWs at that time, and in the middle of the pandemic, on top of it all. So maybe, would it be okay if we just start by getting you guys to share a little bit about how did you first become open to the idea of adopting, so much so that you reached out to Rohe Foundation to help you see how that could be possible?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, it started when we were still singles. We're already open to the concept of adopting. But when we got married, we wanted to have our biological children first. So we were already like 3 years already, right? Married that
3 or 4
time.
years,
Then after the many trips for fertility workup in the hospital. So it's not working.
Yeah, so by the time that we were praying about it, I'm searching through the internet, and then we came across your post in Instagram. So, and think about it, I told to her, that's the time that we are praying and agreeing, maybe it's the time to adopt. So,
Yeah, for me at that time, I didn't said yes right away because although I'm open to adoption, I was thinking, is this really God? Is this really the time that you want us to adopt? Because we've always been open to the concept of it. It's just on the timing. And then I remember what God told me, that you're gonna parent for a purpose. And then I said, I want to hear from you, God. I want to hear straight from you, not just because my husband told me. Because I was teaching in kids church, and then that week I was assigned, and then the teacher's devotion is about Moses. It's about Moses being adopted by the Egyptian princess. And something just resonated in my heart. And it's like God is asking me, if this Egyptian princess, who's not a believer, said yes to adopt a baby whom she just saw at that time, why would you say no to adopt at this time? That was really eye-opening for me. And so that night we agreed that, okay, we're gonna say yes and pursue adoption.
It was like baby steps into it. Sometimes we feel like it's like a big leap, but actually for you guys, it was baby steps. And I'm actually really curious about the experience, because we actually hear from OFWs all the time. They ask us, how do we do it? What's it like if, we wanted to adopt, but we're currently not in the Philippines yet?
It was done during the pandemic. So everything is online. So we process everything online. We just get the list of the requirements that we need to comply with.
Yeah. And you just mailed everything.
Yeah, and we mailed everything. And with our social worker, we talk to her through emails.
Okay.
Yeah.
and virtual also.
Virtual through Zoom.
Everything is online.
Pretty much everything, email,
Yes.
Zoom, and then mailing the documents over and all of that, the interview process happening online. And then the exciting part is matching. Finally knew, had a face, the child that was waiting for you.
There's waiting and there's longing. But when we saw him, it's like everything was, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Wow. And finally, your 36th belated birthday gift from God.
Yeah.
It was a match, and you see his photo.
Yeah.
And you said you just knew he was your son.
We said that God will choose for us. He said that the first match, we will always say it in our hearts. We know this is our son.
Actually, that time we are asking from the agency if they could have, we can meet him through Zoom.
Through Zoom,
A Zoom meeting. So, thank God that
They agreed
with that.
The children's home was open to having you do Zoom meetings with him?
Yes.
Wow.
So what we did is we scheduled twice a week meetings with him.
Yeah.
So we get to play with him. We get to
Online.
know him more online. So we read stories and we share movies with him, and we would watch together through Zoom.
Wow,
So,
that's so creative.
That's our first bonding. So it's possible even during the
possible, yeah.
pandemic.
Wow. That's really amazing because you took on the mantle of parenting as soon as you were matched. It was as if the minute you guys got matched, you saw his face, you said, he is my son.
After the quarantine, we went straight to the children's home.
Wow. Describe in words the feelings that come from actually being able to embrace your son for the very first time.
For us that time, of course, the overwhelming joy and excitement is there. Can't believe our parents are going to hold this child who we have met online for months. Finally, he's here and we can bring him home. And then it's also more of the relief that finally you're home. Finally, you're in a family. Finally, you can really, not just call us mom and dad, but we can hug you back.
Yeah,
because
finally can embrace
we
him.
used to give him virtual hugs, virtual kiss. But this time it's gonna be, real
Yeah.
hugs.
Yeah.
So much joy and peace and relief.
And that actually, Toviel that time, he's kind of hesitant.
Because he used to see is from the computer screen,
Yeah.
and then suddenly it's like
Suddenly
we came
we're
out.
there.
Maybe he was not yet able to process. After the embrace, he's okay already, and he went with us.
It was a bit of an initial shock lang.
Yeah, which is normal because he's just
course,
3
yeah.
and he cannot process that yet. But when he realized when he realized it's us, then he hugged us, and then he went with us. And when we're going home,
Was there an adjustment period? So toddlers are pretty independent already. He was like
Yes.
3 when you found out that he was your son, and it's coming to a year now of him adjusting to family life.
Yeah. It's discovering him every day, and for us, it's also discovering who we are as parents. So we're also, we're not like this before, but we can adjust with this one.
Yeah.
It's because it's different when God stretches you as a parent.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Have there been any challenges? Typically, families will say adopting a toddler sounds hard.
I think when it comes to when he's sleeping at night, that's a little
Yeah.
challenging because at the middle of the night he would cry. We're not sure if he's having bad dreams or he's
Things like that.
remembering anything from before. We're not really sure. But what we doing that time is that just hug him and just make him feel that you're not alone. We're here. Yeah.
Yeah, so those one thing. Another thing is, of course, there are challenges when it comes to eating habits.
Yeah.
Because he's used to routine in the children's home, so we kind of like adjust at that. There are times that he would not like to eat or he would like to play at a particular time. But of course, those things are challenges that we have to face. But we were able to overcome it maybe after a month or 2 months of adjusting, of getting to know him.
Yeah.
It's like you have to start over, right?
Yes,
They say that
yes.
even if the child you take home is 3 years old, they're 1 day old in your family. And you have to be ready and prepared and willing to build with them, to start from scratch,
That's
teach
true.
them as if, it's their first day, as if part of them is an infant in your home.
Yes.
Any concerns you might have had, fears you might have had, but moving into it, you realize that wasn't a concern.
A misconception of having a legal adoption would be very difficult or very hard for some. You have to comply with a lot of documents, those things. It's a tedious process actually. But if you know the purpose of why you're adopting, you will be really motivated to pursue adoption. Looking back, wow, it's really a wonderful journey.
On that note, in closing, I just wanted to ask you guys one more question. Do you have any advice, any tips?
For me, well, what I could say is that from the things that we learned also from adoption, because we've shelved the idea for a long time.
Right.
And now, seeing how beautiful adoption is, there are times I would say, I wish we didn't shelve that idea for so long. I wish we could have said yes to adoption early on because, seeing how God transforms a life through adoption, the beauty of it, and even transform the lives of those around it.
I think it's pretty resounding that really it's this need to just say yes, don't overthink it, and this feeling of I wish I did it sooner.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that those who are listening to the podcast, let's not let that be you.
Yeah.
If you want to start your adoption journey, you can reach out to us at Ruhi Foundation and we'll be happy to walk you through that. But Neil, I want to thank you also for your encouragement around waiting.
Yeah.
I think that the wait is something that really scares people. And you have really a nice perspective on waiting and how it can be a beautiful process. And hearing about the wait that you guys have had to go through all the way from the UAE to getting you to the Philippines and the lockdown and the pandemic and quarantining, or just to be able to hold your son in your arms. And now the wait actually continues as you just wait for the finalization and all of that. But you guys have a beautiful outlook on that, and it just shows how you really see that whatever the cost, it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Whatever the wait, whatever it is that you've had to endure as parents, it's worth it because you get to parent this wonderful boy. And so blessed to hear your story. Thank you so much for agreeing to share that on our podcast.
Yeah. Thank you, Karina, for
Thank
giving us an opportunity to share our adoption story. And we hope it would inspire others as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah.